Welcome to my channel and welcome to the third episode of this series. My name is Russell. Today we'll continue our walk, uncover more stories and hidden corners along the way. Without further ado, let's go.
Today we continue our walk through the quieter side of the city, moving through historic squares, narrow streets, and some of the best viewpoints overlooking the harbor. We're now in Independence Square, exactly where we stopped last episode, a calm, open space that feels very different from the busier parts of Valletta. At the center of the square, you'll find the statue of Dun Michiel Sherry and his companions. They were Maltese patriots executed in 1799 after rebelling against French rule. For a brief period in the late 18th century, Malta was under French rule after Napoleon captured the island. The occupation was short, but it left a strong impact on Maltese history. The monument is a reminder that Malta's path to freedom wasn't easy. It was shaped by resistance, sacrifice, and a strong sense of identity. Malta feels refreshingly clean with well-kept streets, clear blue waters, and historic cities like Valletta that are carefully maintained for locals and visitors alike. This square marks an important chapter in Malta's modern story. It's named after Malta's independence in 1964, when the island officially became a sovereign nation after years under British rule. Just ahead is St. Paul's Cathedral, one of the most important religious buildings in Malta. According to tradition, this is the site where St. Paul met the Roman governor after being shipwrecked on the island in AD 60. That moment marked the beginning of Christianity in Malta. St. Paul's presence left a lasting influence on the island's faith, traditions, and identity, which are still strongly felt today. Many churches and landmarks across Malta trace their origins back to this story. St. Paul's Pro-Cathedral was built between 1839 and 1844 during British rule to serve the growing Anglican community in Malta. This square is one of my favorite spots in the city. It's quiet, calm, and definitely a place you shouldn't miss when you visit. Now we're moving toward the back side of the cathedral, away from the main square and into a calmer part of the city. As we move toward the back, notice how different the atmosphere feels. If you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to follow along with our journey through Malta. The rear of the cathedral is quieter, more residential. It's a good example of how Valletta mixes everyday life with deep history. Churches, homes, and narrow streets all layered together. Here's the side entrance to the cathedral, which is often used by visitors. Here's something you don't see every day, a residential building completely wrapped in Maltese balconies. Take a moment to admire it because details like this are part of what makes the city so unique. The rear of the cathedral feels very different from the front. It's quieter and less formal. Now we're heading into a longer walk right through Old Bakery Street, one of Valletta's oldest roads. Old Bakery Street. This name comes from a huge bakehouse complex built here in the late 1500s by the Order of St. John. These bakeries once produced bread for the city and for the order's hospitals, garrison, and navy. They remained in use by the French and later the British militaries until a new Royal Naval Bakery was opened in Vittoriosa in 1845. The old bakery was converted into storage before falling into disrepair and eventually being demolished in the early 1900s. Today, the street feels much quieter and more local. Residential buildings, traditional Maltese balconies overhead, and everyday Valletta life unfolding around you. It shows a more everyday side of Valletta, away from the tourist routes. Most people see Valletta as beautiful, calm, historic, but in 1749 this city almost fell from the inside. What I'm about to tell you is the story of the slaves' conspiracy. Back then, Malta was ruled by the Knights of St. John, and slavery was part of everyday life. Around 2,000 Muslim slaves lived and worked here, some on galleys, others right inside Valletta. Among them was a powerful man, Mustafa Pasha of Rhodes. He had been captured at sea and brought to Malta as a slave, but treated like royalty. Instead of accepting defeat, Mustafa planned revenge. The plan was to assassinate the Grand Master during a major feast day when Valletta would be quiet. Slaves would then rise up across the city. Slaves would seize the palace armory, free prisoners from the slave jails, take Fort St. Elmo, and open the harbor for Ottoman and North African fleets waiting offshore. But 3 weeks before the uprising, someone talked. The conspiracy was exposed. Over 150 people were arrested and interrogated. In the end, 35 were executed, others died in prison. When you're in Valletta, and if you think you're just looking at doors, you're actually not. You're looking at Maltese personality. These traditional Maltese doors aren't just decorative. Back in the day, the color told you a lot about who lived inside. Bold colors like red or deep blue, that usually meant status, and more muted tones meant simpler households. What I love most is that a lot of these doors are still original. The scratches, the chipped paint, that's hundreds of years of people coming home and leaving. When you walk through Valletta, don't rush it. Look at the doors, because every single one is basically a tiny history lesson with really good aesthetics. Valletta doesn't hide its stories. They're right here. You just have to knock. We're now headed to a viewpoint where the city slows down and the sea starts to take over. Valletta starts to open up here and everything feels a little quieter. You can feel the breeze before you even stop walking, and the wind rolls in from the sea and softens everything. What you're about to see is Marsamxett Harbor, which in the past was known as Quarantine Harbor. From here, the view really opens up. You can see the harbor stretching out in front of us and boats drifting across that deep blue water. Looking out, you can see Slima and Tinya Point, modern and busy across the water. Once a strategic military stronghold guarding the entrance to the harbor, Tinea Point carries layers of history beneath its sleek skyline. Today it's transformed into one of Malta's most upscale waterfront districts, filled with contemporary architecture, shopping, and buzzing seaside cafes. To the side, there's Manuel Island, sitting quietly in the middle of the harbor, home to the historic Fort Manuel. It's a small island packed with centuries of history and stunning views in every direction. Though peaceful today, it once stood as a strategic stronghold, guarding the harbor and shaping Malta's rich maritime past. At the heart of the island stands the star-shaped Fort Manuel, an 18th century masterpiece built by the Knights of St. John to defend the harbor. Beautifully restored, the fort has even served as a filming location, blending Malta's history with the world of cinema. And below, the marina area shows how important the sea still is to daily life in Malta. At Msita Marina, rows of sailing boats and yachts fill the harbor, their masts creating a forest against the skyline. It's one of the island's main yachting hubs, where local sailors and visiting crews alike tie up just minutes from Valletta. There is a reason why this was called Quarantine Harbor back then. For centuries, ships arriving here had to stop and wait while officials checked for signs of dangerous diseases like the plague. Passengers, crew, and cargo were all held in isolation before anyone was allowed to step into Malta, making this bay one of the island's first lines of defense. We're now walking towards Hastings Gardens. This part of Valletta gives you some of the most incredible panoramic views. From there you can see Marsamxett Harbor stretching out below. It's amazing to think these massive fortifications were built in the 16th century. Right ahead is the Ponsonby's Column Monument. What you're seeing today is only the base. The rest of the monument was lost over time. However, if you take a closer look at this historic photo, you'll see the monument in its full glory. And if you look even closer, you'll notice that there were windmills in Valletta in the past. They were mainly used for grinding grain and for producing gunpowder to supply the order's bakeries and magazines. Ponsonby's Column was built during British rule in 1838 as a memorial to Major General Sir Frederick Ponsonby, a former governor of Malta. It was destroyed by lightning, and only its plinth survives today. It's a reminder that not all history survives intact. Some stories fade, leaving only fragments behind. We're now entering Hastings Gardens. This space feels completely different, open, green, and peaceful. It was designed as a place to rest, reflect, and enjoy the view. We're in the west side gardens of Hastings Gardens now. From here, you get some of the most breathtaking views in Valletta. In a moment, you'll see Marsamxett Harbor stretching out below. On a clear day like today, the view reaches all the way to Manuel Island and beyond. Right ahead is one of the best viewing spots overlooking harbor. I used to come here just to stand quietly and take in the view. From here, you can really appreciate how wide and sheltered the harbor is. It's easy to see why this harbor was so important throughout Malta's history. Honestly, this view alone makes the walk up here completely worth it. Let's now walk to the east side of the gardens. The view from there is just as impressive, but with a completely different perspective. You'll be able to see more of Valletta's skyline and fortifications. It really shows how strategically this city was designed. Right now we're standing on St. Michael's Bastion on the western side, while the East Gardens sit atop St. John's Bastion. It's hard to believe this peaceful spot sits right on top of massive 16th century fortifications. These walls once formed part of Valletta's outer defensive system. Today, though, it's a quiet escape from the busy streets just a few steps away. It's the perfect place to pause and really take in the beauty of Malta. You can hear the birds in the background, adding to the calm atmosphere. All around, the greenery makes this place feel peaceful and refreshing. The bridge you see ahead connects the bastions. We're now entering the East Gardens. You'll see that this side has a completely different vibe. Open, bright, and full of life. It's the perfect spot to enjoy panoramic views of the city. Inside the garden, you'll find a monument set up by the Hastings family to honor Francis, the Marquis of Hastings, who served as governor of Malta during British rule. There's a Maltese legend that these gardens were built in just 4 hours. It's said this shows just how hard-working the Maltese people are. The gardens were designed by architect Adriano Divina and are much quieter than the more famous Upper and Lower Baracca gardens with a peaceful, almost romantic vibe. It's almost 10 a.m. and as you can see, there's hardly anyone here. If you want some peace and quiet in Valletta, this is definitely the spot. You can really take a moment to appreciate all the greenery around you. It's the kind of place that makes you just stop, breathe, and enjoy the calm. The gardens also host occasional cultural events like poetry readings and small concerts, especially during Valletta's festival season. It's a wonderful way to enjoy art surrounded by nature, where the peaceful greenery and fresh air make every performance or reading feel even more special and memorable. From here, you get a clear view of St. James Bastion and the city gate where our journey began, and off to the side you can spot the Triton Fountain in the distance. From above, you can really appreciate Valletta's layout, compact, fortified, and carefully planned. It's a city built to be strong, yet undeniably beautiful. This Mediterranean garden blends history, stone walls, and lush greenery in the most beautiful way. The old cannons and fortifications remind you of Malta's powerful past. Cannons like these once guarded Valletta's shores, standing ready to defend this island in the heart of the Mediterranean. We're now reaching the Hastings Tomb, one of the most iconic landmarks inside this beautiful Mediterranean garden. This is the tomb where Lord Hastings rests, right here inside the gardens. He was buried in this very spot, overlooking the sea he once governed.
We're approaching the end of this video. It's not really the end because I only covered a part of the city. We still need to discover the eastern side of the city. Well, that's for another day. Until then, ciao. That means goodbye in Maltese.